Yeah, just crazy what we're seeing with Bitcoin right now. I mean, we saw it just barely peek its head out to a new all-time high kind of during the election last week whenever Trump was pulling ahead. Now, of course, I mean, we're in a whole, I mean, the sky is the limit. I mean, it can do whatever it wants to do basically right now. And seemingly with Bitcoin, it's like every single pullback is this short-lived little, bitch pullback, and then it just starts to take off again, just showing like just crazy strength. ETH has, of course, moved up because, everything kind of is right now, but its ratio is still garbage. It did go up to 0.04. I just saw a bit earlier. It's back down to like 0.035. So its ratio is still down, although the price has gone up to about 3,400. But yeah, just taking a look at Bitcoin right now, Ewok, you and I were talking about this the other day, just how crazy it's been looking. You admitted like you didn't think we'd even get here by the end of the year. I don't know how I really felt about it. I mean, 90K kind of seemed like a stretch by the end of the year, but pretty insane that this is where we are. So what do you make of this breakout? And if we end up touching on it here, that's fine. But we're going to talk about whether this cycle kind of seems more like 2017 or 2021 based on like your experiences before, because this wild move right now just seems familiar to me from 2017 a little bit. But yeah, anyway, what do you think about where we're at right now?
Well, I forget what I had said, but I think this is where I thought we would be end of year. I thought 85, 90,000 would be, the target. And it still may be, we're going to get some pullbacks. We're going to get some sell-offs. Like you said, though, this little red candle is minuscule compared to these, last three. Now we're on the daily chart. These three weren't that big, but, right away on the day after president was announced, we went from 69,000 all the way up to 76. So, right there was a $7,000-8,000 move, and it's been doing those type of moves ever since. There's two candles that are, quite sizable. You go from 80 here to 89 on this one of these last candles, and there's just, it seems to be that the market is approving of what's happened. There's really no other way to put it. People have gotten very bullish very quickly. And I do hear this sentiment of why isn't Pulse Chain moving? I don't understand what's going on. Well, you have to remember that, yes, and we can compare it to 2017. Obviously, Hex, Pulse Chain, they weren't around back then. But as far as Bitcoin goes, you look at these moves back then, and there were some crazy parabolic, upward movements. So, you get into where it technically started early 2017, and it was January, it was $750 roughly, right around there, $700-800, and it ran all the way to 20K. So
yeah,
that was a sizable move. You got a 20x from the lows. So, and that wasn't even the low. I guess it was for that year. But so yeah, but the candles that I'm seeing though are more than what a lot of these were. You look at these daily candles, and they were just every day was a little bit up, a little bit up. I'm already seeing a lot more sizable movements, more like this one. And like, this is one of the bigger candles that I've seen. And you're talking 2,200 up to 2,900. I mean, obviously the volume and the market cap was a lot smaller then. So, roughly a sizable candle, but at the same time, now we're talking moving $8,000 in a day. 2020 was, let's get back to that, where we got 20, when it started here in March of 20, that was, there weren't very many big candles there either. Like, so, I mean, for what we're seeing right now, some of these candles are just massive. And it does show the picture more of the institutional money that has now entered the game. So, I really think that is the product of some of these crazy moves that you're seeing. But yeah, no, it's looking good. It's looking bullish. But when things go this parabolic in this short of time, beware. There's going to be some people taking profits at some levels. There's some traders out there that will dump massive bags, hoping for a pullback, to buy in and swing trade it to get the markets moving the way they want. So just keep that in mind. We may end up here at the end of the year. But now there's people saying we could be well over 100,000 if it continues at this rate. Yes, but will it? That's a lot of momentum this early in the cycle. We almost need to have some pullbacks to keep it a little bit healthier, I think.
I'm with you. Yeah. I mean, while the bull market's going to be crazy, like this kind of up only that we've seen over this last week is usually not something that will last just weeks and weeks and weeks on end like this, especially like you said. I mean, zooming out, even though it's so great what we're seeing right now after so much shitty news for 3 years, like this is still November of 24. It still is not 2025, even though we've had bullish piece of news after bullish piece of news, especially if you're within the Pulse Chain ecosystem. I mean, other than some prices, you're pretty much floating on cloud nine with some of the things that have happened narrative wise over the last couple of weeks. And you just made a great point, Ewok, about talking about people that are saying, like, why isn't Pulse Chain moving? Why, blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, neither is Ethereum. Like, it moved up again. We just mentioned it, but I mean, it moved up USD wise. Yes, it's moved up from whatever, like 2,700 to 33, 34, but the ratio is still hot garbage. So
right.
I mean,
I didn't finish my thought on that. Now that you say it, why isn't Pulse Chain moving? Well, everything's delayed, right? Bitcoin is your first mover. Bitcoin is your old faithful that's been around forever. It's the one that gets the momentum first. It will then switch. Ethereum will take over. That ratio will catch up eventually. And at that point, you'll see the tides kind of changing, right? Ethereum will take over. It'll close that ratio gap. Once you get a Bitcoin top, historically, 28 days later is your Ethereum top. At that point, people take profits. They start rotating into altcoins. Then altcoins have their season. It's a very delayed thing. But the thing you need to watch for is with Pulse Chain, you could go up. It'll say, well, Bitcoin's moving like crazy, not seeing anything. And the next thing you know, you blink your eyes and you've 2 or 3x'd very, very slowly. It's just it's a subtle creep up there. But it will happen. And, once Ethereum does top out, people do rotate into other things. So that's the time that we see the parabolic run-ups like crazy in altcoins. And that's kind of what, I'm expecting to see again. Until it doesn't happen, you can expect the same thing that happened the last couple cycles. And it's the same until it isn't, right?
Yeah, I think that's all that we can really look to. And it is funny, like, these things turn on such a dime. And then, people's forecasts and things like that change. Like you just said, people talking about, 100K Bitcoin by the end of the year is definite now. I mean, it may not. I mean, you look back to March of this year, like when things were pumping just overall in crypto and people are like, oh, here we go and everything. And it's like, that was so short lived. And then it was just kind of crap for the rest of the year. So I'm not saying, I mean, obviously we're getting better and better as we get towards 2025, but we may look back to this week after the election and be like, oh, wow, things really just popped off there. We went up to 93K or whatever it was and cooled off a bit after that. I don't want to be a wet blanket. I'm not trying to throw cold water on anything. Just looking at another point of view, and we still have a long, long way to go, obviously, here through this bull market. You just mentioned, like, sure. We're starting to see more people talk about 250K BTC again. Like, that's what this cycle is going to get to. Richard Hart obviously tweeted about it before. We just saw Crypto Kobe, who's like, pretty sure crypto billionaire, tweeting, or at least hundreds of millions, tweeting about it the other day. Do you think, just as a final point on like Bitcoin and the cycle overall for its potential, like, do you think that people are just getting out over their skis right now because we're seeing this pump and all of a sudden you're seeing these predictions come out of the woodwork? Or, I don't know. I mean,
They always do. I remember
Yeah.
last year they were calling, Richard had called the top at 65, 63, whatever it was, and people were still calling for over 100,000 then. So, it happens every cycle. People are always pushing that narrative that it's going to go a lot higher than expected. They want people to buy their bags. That's usually what you're seeing when people talk that way. So yeah, I think people are kind of getting ahead of themselves. There's nothing wrong with putting a target out there this early. But when you start to see things roll over and that time in the cycle, has arrived and people are still calling for $1 million Bitcoin, that's the time that you want to kind of watch out. So, I see you've arrived. Hang on, let me add you here.
There we go.
Remove your other one. I removed your other one. We good?
Boom.
Yep.
Yeah, you got me?
Yep, gotcha.
Sweet.
Nice.
Okay.
Technical difficulties. Sorry, folks.
Yeah, little impromptu computer reboot right before we went on the air there. So if you liked AI Pikachu version of me, let me know. I can throw that back up for you guys.
You did get a Pika friendship confirmed from Valiant Loki there.
Oh, so. Beautiful. Thank you, Valiant Loki. Perfect. Okay.